All right, what's up, y'all? My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today is the 20th of March, 2026. We've got Dante here, my standard poodle. This is In the Image Clothing Company Poodles, where we let dogs stay natural. All right, that's our slogan here, letting dogs stay natural. It's the same thing we do on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, another one of our fourths, with allowing the body to work being our slogan. A lot of what we do and why these are our slogans is because the only thing physically placed on us is clothing us, whatever it is. As human beings, it's our clothing, but even things like glasses or jewelry, these things just can't alter our bodies. There's only one way our bodies work. And so for the dogs, collars, leashes, harnesses, bandanas, slip leads, anything you place onto a dog, around the neck of a dog. You know, we can tie things one side over the other and just twist the dog's whole spine, or we can have heavy things on the dog, things that are imbalanced weight-wise or not snug, and so they're just hard for the dog to hold on their bodies, just like us as human beings. Like I was saying, we discuss on the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, clothing, it needs to stay centered, fit correct, and be made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials, because there's always only natural until we make unnatural things as human beings that just decompose back to natural. Our bodies are only natural. We're only what we eat. The earth literally becomes the human being or the dog. Now here's the thing. We get into chronic patterning as human beings or dogs, anything physically placed on us that our bodies are having to work around, oversized clothing, imbalances of any kind in clothing, and there are many in modern clothing design in 2026 and going forth. Okay. It's just going to get worse and more unnatural. Ropes, like I was saying, tying something around the dog, like a bandana, for example, shoelaces, drawstrings for human beings. We just let the bodies work. The only end is to allow God's design of the human being, designed in the image of God or in the image of Jesus Christ, to work. We have to allow it to work. Those are the first three of our 5-word company name, In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah, or we let God's design of the dogs stay natural. Anyway, this video's title, because we do a lot more than just clothing. It's just that clothing is the only thing physically placed on us. Anything that is clothing us, the way that God clothes the fields with grass, something placed onto something else, is just literal wording. So the title of this video is Training Dogs to Follow You. Here's the thing, you've got some dogs and you let them off their leash, or you let them out of your house or out of your yard that's fenced in or whatever it is like this. You don't have your dog restrained. There's some dogs out there that'll literally just run off and they're gone. You might not see that dog again unless somebody finds the dog and brings it to you, or you go chasing the dog down. There's some pretty terrible dogs out there. And I don't mean to be mean in the slightest when I say that, but the thing is, these are just domesticated wild animals. And so if we take dogs out of their natural wild environment and we place them into our modern man-made world, placed onto God's natural earth, we've got to do all that we can to at least have it be a proper process for the dogs. Modern dog breeds wouldn't even exist without human beings, like the breed of a poodle. Us specializing in purebred standard poodles here under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. Standard is the large size and poodle is the breed of the dog. We give information that applies to all dogs, but even the poodle, it wouldn't even exist until human beings selected the dogs they want to breed to have a litter of puppies. Wow, puppers. Over generation and generation and generation, and we almost make new dog breeds in the sense of us selecting the dogs to breed. You know, it's an unnatural process to begin with. So with letting dogs stay natural, there's only so much we can actually do. Domesticating dogs to begin with is an unnatural thing. But if we're going to be doing this, what we need to have happen is we need to be as intentional as we can. There's a bee just flying around here, right by my hand. We need to be as intentional as we can to keep these dogs having the best life we can while they're just domesticated, all right? So here's the thing. You've got a lot of terrible dogs. That's where I was going with this. No kind of insult, but a lot of times it just comes through improper breeding. You would just about never have a mixed dog breed or mixing of two different dog breeds in the wild. You'd have to have something different, like a fox mixed with a coyote. Two different types of dogs, but it's so common to have in our domesticated dog population. It's unhealthy, you know. So when we advocate for the health of dogs here under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles and keeping less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes, a lot of it just starts before birth with doing all that we can to breed dogs properly. You know, mistakes happen, accidents happen, and also we just don't know what we don't know. We can't be held accountable for what we don't know. But that's why we're here just doing so much under the gift of video, as I call it, under all four sides of In the Image Clothing Company. Because if we know things that are just universally true, it's great to share that information. So things like this, you know, a lot of dogs, the reason they're not following you, if you've got a dog where, you know, ideally, as the owner of a dog, what we want pretty well universally is for us to just be able to walk somewhere and our dogs to just follow us, because we're the owners. Here's a big thing with this, with training dogs to follow you. Well, we are the alpha dog to our dogs. You have to be. In dog packs, they have a hierarchy. They have a pretty sophisticated structure of how the dog pack works. A dog pack is a group of dogs. So you've got the leader dog, which is the alpha dog, and then you've got all the other dogs playing their roles in the dog pack's society, if you will. And so with our dogs, we have to have our dogs view us as the leader dog or the alpha dog in the dog pack if we want them to listen to us. That's how it literally has to be. That's how these dogs are instinctually, genetically wired. All right. So that's a big thing, you know, training dogs to follow you. You've got to be really stern with your dogs. I know a lot of people have a hard time being stern with dogs, you know, and disciplining them pretty harshly. You have to if you want your dog to be obedient. You have to see it as it is, because in a natural dog pack, if a dog's not being obedient to the alpha dog will bite at the dog or snap at the dog, you know, nip at the dog with his teeth and teach the dog a lesson, you know. That's how it works, because that's how the society of the dog pack's hierarchy functions. That's how they can hunt together, and that's how they can move around in packs, and they follow each other around, and you don't have dogs just going off doing their own thing. They wouldn't really survive. Dogs are pack animals. They rely on each other. So we have to almost be one of the dogs, if you will, as the owner of a dog, at least in the eyes of the dogs. So here you go. Training dogs to follow you. There's a lot to this, because we could have our dogs be so well trained, like proximity wise, that we walk and your dog is right at your side. People call it a heel position or whatever you want to call it. If you're walking and your dog stays like within inches or a foot from your own side and you're just walking and they're right next to you, you can train your dog to do that, and that can be wonderful in a lot of situations. But it will be pretty hard for your dog to just go from not being used to following you around to just try to train them to be right next to your side all the time. And so if you're trying to train your dog to follow you right next to your side all the time, that's probably not the best place to start. You got to teach your dog like step by step, if you will. So here's some things we can really see. We want our dogs to look at us as their everything, if you will. You know, not to get all like center of attention, you know, that's not the point, but we kind of need that to a degree. We want our dogs to look at us as their safest place, so if something scares them, they don't run off to something else, but they run to you as the owner, and then you can restrain the dog and keep the dog safe. We need our dogs to look at us as well, though, as the voice they listen to louder than anything else. We could call things voices that the dogs could listen to, like food. The dog smells or sees food somewhere, and if they have that as a higher priority than you, and they go to the food, then your dog's not going to be following you if you try to tell your dog to go to the other direction of where the food is. You know, or toys. It could be a voice, in a sense, that your dog could listen to over your voice telling your dog to follow you somewhere, or just, you know, metaphorically voice, as in just something to listen to, as in listen to your guidance. Just when you're walking, your dog should follow you. We need our dogs to look at us as if seriously, without being, self-centered about it to your dogs, you need to be your dog's whole world. You really do. You're the one that decides, as the owner of a dog, when they eat, when they get to drink something, when they get to go outside, when they get to go to any other certain location, all these things. We have these domesticated animals. They're dogs. They're not wild canines the way that they were before we domesticated them. So we have to really be taking accountability for these dogs, and that's how we do it, is having our dogs look at us as their number one priority. That's a big point before you try to get your dog to follow you anywhere, or as you're trying to get your dog to follow you, rather than just running off to whatever they want to do. You need your dog to have a reason to follow you, and so you need to make it clear your role to your dog, that you're the one that feeds them, you're the one that gives them the adventures they want to have, and really need to have, just the natural, life. As best as we can in our own situations, we need to give our dogs natural lives. There's a slogan, in the Image Clothing Company Poodles, letting dogs stay natural. That's what I mean. So, when we're trying to get our dogs to follow us, they've got to pay attention to us first off. But a big way you can do this is one of the big points for this video's sake, is instead of what we were saying a few minutes ago here, of trying to teach your dog just right off the bat to stand right next to you and walk and barely leave your side at all as you go anywhere, what's really great to do for your dog is just to reward your dog, and just verbally is all it would have to be, when they're right next to your side. So if you can see Dante here, my current standard poodle, he blends into this grass really well. He's an apricot color, and so that's similar to a lot of this light colored grass out here in Utah. But if I walk by Dante, right as I walk next to him and he's right by my side, I don't even have to I said even twice because that's what I'm saying. Don't overcomplicate it. We have a video here under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles titled Simplifying Dog Commands. And we want our dogs to be able to listen to us and understand what we're saying as quickly and as easily and as thoroughly as we can have that be the case. So if we simplify our commands as simple as they could be when we're speaking to our dogs, we want them to understand us, then they'll have an easier time understanding us. The more simple we can make our commands to our dogs, the easier it will be for them to understand the command. So even if it's me walking by Dante as he's just laying on the ground, I don't even have to use 2 words and say good boy, but if I just walk by him and I say good, and use that as the reward, when anytime Dante is doing something good, as in behavior that I'm wanting him to do as his owner, that's what I say to him. I just make it so simple and I say, good. So if I walk by Dante here, when I'm right next to him, I will let him know that that's a good thing. And what this does is this gets Dante's attention on me, but also it starts to have, when I'm saying Dante in this video, this would just apply to any dog you'd be doing this with, but Dante is the one in this video. It starts to get Dante's attention on, all right, when he's right next to me, he likes that. He rewards me. He also rewards me with food in times, or he tells me the same thing and he says good when he feeds me, or when we go on fun adventures and I do something he likes and I can tell he's pleased with me, he says good. And so he associates this verbal reward of the word good with something that's good. And all it would have to be is me just walking right next to him. So watch this. I'll walk next to Dante, and as I do, I'll just say good, right? Just like this. Good. Simple enough, yeah? What you're training your dog to do in this case is be next to your side by telling them it's a good thing when they are. So it can be any time ever. Your dog can be sitting, your dog can be laying down, your dog can be just about almost completely asleep. Even if your dog's fully asleep, they'll probably hear you if you speak right next to them. Dogs sleep light enough that they can just be alert and get up at any second that they would need to. That's what I'm saying, is before you ever try to teach your dog how to follow you somewhere, by using all these very specific commands, having them on a leash or a slip lead, right? A collar and leash combo, something like this, and trying to just hold them right next to your side. That's more of a punishment for the dog. You want your dog to associate what you're trying to get them to do with something that's good for both you and them. I mean, ideally, we're not ever trying to get our dogs to do anything that's good for just us. Not really. I mean, that should basically never be the focus. We're trying to teach our dogs, as good owners of dogs, how to do things and approach things in ways that benefits both the dog and the owner. Really. And so, if you have your dog on some kind of restraint and you're just trying to, like, hold them at the other end of a leash and basically drag them everywhere right next to your side to try to train them to follow you around right close next to you, your dog's probably going to think you're punishing them, just dragging them all over the place. And so we need our dogs to really enjoy being right next to our side. And we need them to not only just enjoy it, but know that we are grateful when they do it. So that's what I've been doing with Dante since I adopted him from the South Utah Valley Animal Shelter in December of 2025. I've had Dante for 3.5 months, give or take at least. And Dante's awesome. I mean, behavioral wise, we can go walking anywhere and I keep a slip lead with me. This one is a homemade slip lead I made to use for Dante here, you know, in case I need to restrain him. But Dante will just follow me because of the ways I've trained him, that's a good thing for him to do. And so the big thing is simplifying it, because you've got all these commands. You can say come and return and this way and heel and, you know, all of these things, whatever commands you could say, or, and when I say or, it's kind of an and or, because before is really the best way to explain that for what I'm trying to say. Before you try to get it all very specific, we need to teach our dogs to just follow us generally and just be near us. And so that's how you'll do it. I mean, you can be in the house. Well, I mean, that's a great way to do it. You don't have to do it exactly how I'm saying by any means, but this works well. I mean, this is how I've done it with Dante here. And it kind of depends on breed to breed too. That's a big point, because poodles, for example, they are known as clingy dogs. That's actually one of the big reasons we chose specifically the breed of the poodle. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons specifically for the standard size to use under our dog fourth of In the Image Clothing Company, because we want our dogs to want to follow us around with all the events we'll do as In the Image Clothing Company, and just the simplicity of having an obedient dog. If they're wanting to follow you around and be by your side, then that helps. It gives you almost a jump start, if you will, on the training. And so from breed to breed, a lot of times that's a big deal. You know, certain breeds are just bred to do different things than other breeds, and it can really change how this will go. So that's another big point. You know, you can't get after a dog for doing things that it's literally bred to do. In its actual biology and the genetics of the dog, you know, certain dogs are bred to run. Certain dogs are bred to, pull things or chase things, or, you know, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons that dogs are bred. And so if you've got dogs that are bred to run after things, you can't really get after that dog for not staying near you in times when they're chasing after an animal, if they were literally bred to be a hunting dog and go retrieve an animal, you know, for the hunter. Okay, so there's a lot of context that has to come with it, because we can't get after the dogs for things that couldn't possibly be their fault. All right, there's an airplane noise that I can hear. Okay, I understand. Let me wait out the airplane noise for just a second here. And then we'll continue saying what I'm saying here about this, all right? We'll walk around here a little bit and I'll show you what I'm saying. All right. As I say, blunt, bold, raw, and real. In the Image Clothing Company, we've got surrounding sounds where we do, it's just how it is if you're actually out here, so it's just how it is, you know. So, here we go. I get the noise, I get it. As we're walking around, let's say I'm not giving Dante any kind of commands. It's not like I'm gonna start walking over this way and I tell him to come, and then I start turning this way and I say this way, and you know, I'm going different ways and giving him different commands. If I'm just walking around, or if I'm even the one standing there and Dante comes right next to my side, anytime you and your dog, or me and my dog, are just really close to being right next to each other, if you just say that word, or whatever word it is that you use to reward your dog, but it's a very common thing, pretty well completely universal to just say good, you know, good dog, good boy, good girl. So if you say that when they're right next to you, you're rewarding them for just being close to your side. And then as this happens time and time again, even in the house, like I'm saying, you're just walking past your dog and they're just sitting on the ground or laying on the ground, or you're just standing there, sitting there, and your dog just walks by you, just reward them for it, for being right near you. And they'll understand over time, as you're doing this in different situations, that all you're really asking them to do is be near you, and you're telling them that's a good thing for them to do. So if we walk around, let's say I'm not necessarily calling Dante to me, but I just walk over somewhere. If I wait, the thing is, you have to be patient. As the owner of a dog, if you want a patient dog. Same thing, similar thing as what I was saying, you can't get after a dog for doing things that's literally in their genetics and their breeding to do. You can't get after a dog for not being patient if you're not patient with the dog when you're training them. You have to be patient first. So yeah, if I just walk over somewhere and I don't even call him to me, no matter how long it takes him to come over to my side, once he does, just naturally on his own, I just say, good. And then I walk somewhere else, and if he just ends up coming near my side, then you just say, good. If you've got a dog that runs around a lot, Dante doesn't really run, unless he's chasing an animal, which he likes to do, and in times I let him do it, you know, depending on the situation, because he's not gonna hurt the animals, personally, Dante here. He doesn't run normally, but there's a lot of dogs that just will be running all over the place. And that's what I'm saying, is if they're running and they just run right next to you, as they're right by your side, say, good, even if they keep running past you. Because you're getting this idea in the dog's mind of, when I'm right near them, they like that. And then, as you keep doing this, it'll just train your dog to be next to you. Wherever you are, what situation you're in, and you can kind of bring it in closer and closer and closer and closer, because that's the point. Then once you get to that point, now you could train your dog to try to be very, very close to your side and walk right next to you without even really leaving your side just about at all. But you don't want to start there. That's just a big jump from a dog, especially one that's just wanting to run all over the place, and you're just maybe fed up with them not being near you, so you put them on a rope and just try to drag them around right next to you and think you're going to train them to just stay right there. You have to have some in-between steps if you want it to flow well. I mean, in almost every case, at least. So watch this. We'll just demonstrate this a little bit. I mean, I can tell him to get up and I tell him to come, and he'll follow me really pretty darn close currently on the 20th of March, 2026. Dante here personally. But what I'm going to do is just walk away, and when he comes near me, I'll just reward him by saying, good. And I'll walk somewhere else, and if he just on his own chooses to come near me, I'll just reward him and say, good. Just so you can see what I'm saying. All right, here we go. Good. Good. Dante. Come. Good. Good boy. Okay, good. So the thing is, regardless of if you're trying to give them commands and you tell them to come, or you tell them to follow, or you say this way, or whatever command you're using for your dog, or if you're just somewhere where, you know, that your dog's just fine and safe to be off a leash or a lead, and they're just doing their own thing and you're doing your own thing, when they come right next to you, just reward them for being right next to you. And as you do this, this is the thing with dogs, is you have to be persistent. You can't just train your dog one thing at one time and expect them to just know how to do it just like that for the rest of their life, because maybe they don't do it the same as time goes on. And you also can't expect your dog to learn something that's relatively complex, whatever it could be, you know, quicker than they can just learn it. That's the thing with owning a dog. We have to remember they are just animals. They don't know anything about a human being's lifestyle or human being languages or communication until we teach it to them. So the big thing is just being persistent. And even in times when your dog would just naturally come by your side and you wouldn't necessarily need to reward them verbally like that, or in any way you could reward them, but ideally that's all you need to do is just verbally reward your dog, or physically pet them, or just show them that you're grateful in a way that's just authentic. You don't have to have any kind of supplemental thing to give your dog. Then they might rely on something else besides you. That's what I mean. Yeah, you want you to be all your dog needs for a reward to listen. Or else it's conditional, you know? The obedience, it's not toward you if it's towards something you're giving them as a reward. It should be just you if you want a really good bond with you and your dog, and a really obedient dog that's not conditional on having things with you to give them. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, even if your dog's good, like Dante is currently, and I can just walk basically anywhere out here, you know, keeping an eye out for animals and other people and bikers and, you know, any kind of potential danger to Dante or anything that's going to potentially be in danger because of Dante, even just him getting in someone's way or something, you know. But as long as it's a safe area and your dog can just be out, Dante here, this personal dog, this dog personally, he doesn't need me to correct his behavior just about ever. When it comes to just following me around and staying near me, I could just walk anywhere I go and he'd be really fairly close to me, within maybe 50 feet to 100 feet. And that's all I'm asking for, me personally in this situation, and in a situation like this, in an environment like this, is just stay close enough to me where you can see me and I can see you. Another thing we can do to just casually, if you will, or gradually train our dogs to just follow us without it seeming like a punishment. That's the point, is you don't want to just put a rope around your dog's neck and expect them to enjoy it, or expect them to learn it and get good at it. It's annoying for the dog to have a rope around its neck and be pulled by its neck places. You know, that's not the best way. I mean, all opinions aside, who wants to be pulled around by their neck and then it'd be expected to go exactly where they're pulled to all the time, especially right off the bat as the first way of trying to train someone, for example, or something to just follow you? We want to gradually teach this, no matter what level you're trying to get your dog to, if you want them actually right by your side, or you just want this general obedience for them to follow you where you go and you don't have to actually physically restrain them. Another thing we can do is really focus on eye contact with our dogs. So I'll do this with Dante. If we're just out here, like I'm saying, he's off his leash or he's off his lead of whatever kind, we advocate for slip leads under In the Image Clothing Company poodles. It's less restriction to the dog than a collar and a leash. It pulls just right out the back of the dog's neck, just straight off their spine naturally, which is great. It's more minimal, yeah, than any kind of collar and leash combo or harness and leash combo. You know, we've got videos here under In the Image Clothing Company poodles titled these. How to use a slip lead is one of them, okay? Dog leads pull from hand to spine is another video here under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles. Just straight out the back of the dog's neck is where you want the lead to be pulling from, not from the underside of the dog's neck. Then it has to wrap around their whole neck to pull tension. So what I'm saying is, ideally we can have our dogs off their leads or off their leashes, any kind of physical restraint, in any and every situation that we can, because naturally they would never be restrained from anything. Just like us as human beings, we don't have other people putting ropes around our neck, usually, just pulling us around. See what I mean? So if we can trust our dogs, our dogs' trust will build in us, and vice versa, you know. That's just how it works. So the more you trust your dog to be off leash or off lead, the more they'll want to be obedient to you, because you're giving them the freedom to do it because you trust them. And so they'll trust you more and want to follow you where you go. And so what I'm saying is, eye contact is a big thing. Make sure you're in a place where it's safe and legal too, in all the ways you can, and right times and places for certain things that otherwise you wouldn't do. But if your dog's just off their leash or off their lead and they're just somewhere walking around, if you're keeping an eye on them, you want them to keep an eye on you. So if your dog turns around and looks at you, even if they're, 50 feet away, 100 feet away, you just tell them, good, right when you make that eye contact, and then just let them go back to their thing. This is what I'm saying is, what it really means to train your dog to follow you. I mean, it's really just basically saying how to have an obedient dog. It's the same as any kind of thing you're trying to ever get your dog to do or be obedient with. You just need your dog to listen to you and have their attention on you. And when you're walking around somewhere, the reason why this video is so big, it's almost a prerequisite to a lot of other trainings you could possibly get your dog to do. What this really is, I mean, we could almost title it how to keep your dog's attention on you, rather than training dogs to follow you. But this is how you get your dog to have their attention on you. That's what I'm saying. Reward the eye contact. Then, again, it's this reinforcement every time your dog looks at you when you make eye contact, that it's good for them to be focused on you. Because you need to be focused on your dog to be a good owner of a dog, to keep your dog safe, and, depending on the dog, to keep other things around you safe from your dog, maybe, right? Even if that just means, maybe like a biker coming through, a mountain biker here, and we don't want the mountain biker to crash because Dante or any dog was in their way. Just teaching your dog how to be an obedient dog. I mean, this starts from, but also it furthers in just teaching your dog to follow you. Just training your dog to have you be their highest attention. So if I leave Dante here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell Dante to wait right here. I'm going to walk away a little ways, and I'll just let Dante sit there, and if he starts to look around, I'll show you what I mean. When he looks around and if he looks at me, I'll say good and reward his eye contact. What we're doing is just focusing on the dog, and we want the dog to focus on us. We're rewarding the attention. That's how we train dogs to follow us. So watch this. Hey, Dante. Up. Good, Dante. You wait. So I'll just reward his eye contact. I mean, he's looking at me right now, but if he looks away, watch this. Good. Good, Dante. Okay. Come. Good. Okay. he just looked at me once and he just kept looking at me. I was, going to, if he were to look away and look back at me again, just say good every time his eyes returned to me and he had his attention on me. But Dante's just such a good dog that once he looked at me, he just sat there and stared at me. So we only had one opportunity to be able to see what I was saying there in that amount of time. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. If your dog is focused on you, you can get him to follow you. If your dog's focus is just wherever they want or whatever comes up, like maybe a rabbit comes out of these oak brush trees here, or a cat or something, or someone is walking through or biking through and they're talking and it takes Dante's attention more than having his attention on me, then he might follow that thing rather than following me. That's all this is. That's all it means to own a dog. That's all it means to teach a dog or train a dog anything, is teaching them what you're asking of them and just rewarding it when they do it. Just simplifying all this stuff as much as we can is how it's going to work the best, because we're having communication between a human being and an animal, okay? And so, yeah, you don't want to sit there and say all these different words. If you're trying to get your dog to follow you somewhere, you don't want to be saying it in different sentences all the time. Like, hey, come on, come this way. Come on, dog, come over here and follow me over here and stop going over there. You don't want to say all these different things. You want it to be so simple and streamlined. You notice when I give Dante commands, it's almost always just a one-word command. Like when he was sitting here and he turned and had his attention on me, I rewarded his attention on me with just the one-word command, if you will, but the one-word reward, if you will. I just said, good. And then when I wanted Dante to come to me, which was just me having Dante come over to me in this case, I just said the one word, come. And that's all he did, is exactly what I said, because I made it such an easy thing for him to understand. So when we want our dogs to follow us, that's the thing. Sometimes we get frantic. Depending on who you are. I mean, yeah, sometimes, you just start saying all sorts of different things, different ways of trying to say it in English or whatever language you personally speak, or different ways of trying to communicate it to the dog that you want them to come back to where you are or to follow you a certain way. If you make a turn and they go the other way and they're just not following you, you want to make it so easy for your dog to understand, and you want to be patient. You have to make it as simple as you can. Speak it for your dog to have as simple of a time as they can understanding it. You need to be as patient as you can with your dog for your dog to be as patient as they can with you. It starts with the owner. It's always the owner's fault. There's no such thing as owning a dog until we take a wild dog under our ownership. These dogs are their own things if we're not getting in the way as human beings. It's not always a bad thing. I mean, sometimes it's great for both the human being and the dog to domesticate dogs. A lot of times dogs can have longer, healthier lives under care of human beings, but only if we know how to have that be and how to be intentional, But be patient, Be patient. You got to be patient with your dog. If you're trying to get your dog to follow you, don't just start yelling the same commands, or especially not different commands again and again and again. Just be patient, all right? So, kind of a recap on how to really get this to happen in a way that's just simple and easy. Reward your dog by just a very simple command, or again, verbal reward. It's probably not a command. You're not telling them to do something, but you're rewarding them when they have done something, or even when you have. When it comes to the dog just walking right next to you, say, good. Or if you walk right next to your dog, say, good. And make it clear to your dog that you're saying that to them. That's what I mean as well. You have to let your dog know you're talking to them. Maybe you're with multiple people and you're just talking, or like me, I'm just maybe praying out loud or just talking about things when there's no other human beings around and I've got Dante with me. We need to make the dogs, we need to let the dogs know we're talking to them when we're talking to them, so they know what you're saying is for them to hear and listen to. So, yeah. Be patient. reward the eye contact, and just keep it simple. I mean, such a, in a good way, cliche thing to say in just about everything in life. Just keep it simple. If you're trying to teach your dog to follow you places, make it simple for them to understand what you're saying, where you're going, why they're following you. Try to keep it as consistent as you can, the way you're explaining it to them, and reward them naturally, meaning all it really would have to be. And that's the ideal, really, so we don't get our dogs dependent on anything else besides us. It's just a verbal good, or good dog, good boy, good girl, and whatever language you speak or whatever way you say it. Just a very simple way of letting your dog know you're pleased with them. All right, I'll just walk around a little bit here and you can see how Dante just follows me well. So you can kind of get an idea of what I'm saying we're trying to train to in this case, and what I'm explaining we can get ourselves to and get our dogs to. And it's not hard, but we have to be patient. Patience on the owner's part. All right, hey Dante, up. Good, Dante. Come. Patience. If I told him to come right over here with Dante's level of training, he would. But if we just wait for our dogs to come over to us, maybe just ask us like, what's going on? Why aren't you moving? Then you reward them for being right next to you. This is what I mean by patience. A lot of it is not going to happen if you're not patient as the owner when it comes to anything you're ever trying to train a dog to do. What I'm doing right now is intentionally letting Dante just go do whatever he wants. As long as he's not eating something off the ground or going somewhere he shouldn't. And once he decides on his own to return back to me, I'll reward him for just coming back to my side. And this is letting him know that I'm giving him freedom, but also where he really should be is close to me, right? I'm gonna do it like this. I'm just gonna walk over here closer to the camera again because he'll probably come back over here. Like I'm saying, in this case, I could just tell him to come wherever he was and he'd come, but good. Wait a little bit. Make it so clear that you don't reward this until they actually fully are right next to you. Like I'm saying, they can be walking past you or even running past you, but if they are gonna come and stop right next to you, don't reward behavior until it's fully what you're asking when it comes to training dogs. If Dante starts walking to me and he's like 3 feet away from me, I shouldn't reward him yet. If the goal was for him to come all the way to me, once he gets here, make sure he's fully stopped, maybe even wait like a good second, and then reward him. Just so it's clear to him what it actually means that you're asking. What's the fullness of what you're actually asking in a time like this when you want your dog to be right next to you. But again, there's levels to it of what it means to have your dog follow you. You can have a general distance, you can bring it closer, and you can bring it closer, and you can bring it closer, until you could train your dog, depending on the dog's specific individual capability and your level of persistence as the owner or the trainer of the dog. You can train just about any dog to be right next to your side, like pretty much not even leaving your leg. But If you don't need that to be the case, then you don't need that. In my personal case, at least as of yet, the 20th of March 2026, I don't need Dante to be able to follow me that close. I just need him to follow me relatively close and then come back to me when I ask him to, you know. So anyway, remember, your dog can only learn what you teach them. If there's something you're trying to get them to do, so you can't get upset at them if you haven't explained it to them well enough in a way they can understand of what you're actually trying to get them to do. All right. So there you go. That's what we'll say for this video. More information to come. You know, we do a lot where we do. And we do a lot because there's 4 sides to In the Image Clothing Company. We live up Utah, the state of Utah, the United States of America here. All right. Check out the beautiful nature, man. Seriously, a lot of what we do is just nature. That's why we live up Utah. One of the big reasons is the beautiful, diverse nature. The headquarters of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are here in nature. I mean, I've said it like that before, just about, but now here in Utah. But poodle parade events. Bring your poodles, purebred of any size or mixed poodles of any size, and we'll get people into nature and dogs into nature. Come for the events, and the reason we're doing them, not for In the Image Clothing Company's team, because we'll have really specific good reasons why we're doing these things. Specific subcategories where we do like clean the creek or rid the rubbish poodle parade events, actually picking up trash for the environment. But you know, when it comes to the information we give and the reasons we have the events, it'll all be clear on each individual event we have. But yeah, you know, we give a lot of information. Things like this for both human beings and dogs. These are big phrases. They're both video titles under In the Image Clothing Company's main side. Keeping collars centered and the importance of snug collars. You know, we've just got even opposing musculature, both as human beings and the dogs, going around our neck into the center line of our bodies and the spine. And this is going through the collars of our tops. You know, our bodies have center lines on Earth's gravity, the sternum, the spine, the trachea, the nose, and our jaw stabilizes the entire body, the dog's jaw and the human being's jaw, and the musculature connecting the jaw to the body, some of that musculature goes through the collar of our tops as a human being or through the collar of the dog. And there's just a lot to this. You know, we discuss the anatomy of the human body in depth under In the Image Clothing Company's main side, and we allow it to work truly. I mean, we really get down to it thoroughly with our discussions. And you know, we do the same thing for dogs in the ways that we do, and that's the point of us being a clothing company. But we discuss everything: standing, sitting, walking, sleeping, eating, breathing, hydration, and doing these things naturally, because like I said, there's only natural, there's no opinion to it. Natural, neutral, and normal are synonyms with how the bodies work of both the human beings and the dogs. So anyway, there's only one way these things happen, and we place man-made things onto them. Just the mechanical operations of the human being or the dog. As we say, the bodies are just mechanical machines placed onto this rock in space that is our Earth. We've just got a vertical pull to gravity and a horizontal surface to the Earth beneath it. It's just a 90-degree right perpendicular angle. You know, we talk about mathematics and mechanics, you know, physics, physical operations. Hinges, levers, and rotations are what the bodies are. And so if we place things onto them that don't work for them the way they do, well, that's why we're a clothing company, to just be very intentional with these things. So we'll always have good human being clothing and good dog products, staying centered, fitting correct, and being made in all the ways we can from 100% natural materials under In the Image Clothing Company. Yeah. All right. Utah. Currently, Dante and I are standing and living at this time in Utah County, Utah. But we'll move just about 3.5 hours south of here to St. George, Utah. That's where we'll be based for life as In the Image Clothing Company. So hang out, check us out, you know, through the gift of video. We post our videos publicly, a lot of free information, a lot of free modifications in the ways we approach our lives, just so we can do it naturally, living in this unnatural world. You know, things like the arches in our feet that need texture to grip the ground and keep the muscles activated. You know, the muscles only pull in the body with just opposing muscles. All right. the dog's feet too. You know, we've got a video here under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles titled Slippery Flooring and Dog's Feet. You know, dog's feet and slippery flooring, this man-made flooring. Well, our feet need texture to work, you know. Anyway, we get into a lot of things in depth with what we discuss, you know, feeding dogs and grooming dogs, training dogs. We'll breed purebred standard poodles to advocate for purebred dogs. Like I was saying, keeping less dogs in shelters and more dogs at homes. That starts before the birth of the dog, with us doing what we can to select proper dogs. In the wild, you've got what's called survival of the fittest, and the healthiest dogs are the ones that live. And in our domesticated dog society, we've got a lot of extremely unhealthy dogs because we're the ones as human beings that often choose what dogs breed with each other, or we just have unintentional, accidental litters of puppies that come. There's a lot of health complications with these things, you know. It's just not natural within the way that we have domesticated dogs if we're not doing it very intentionally to the best of what we can, you know. So anyway, yeah, there you go. In the Image Clothing Company podcast, another one of our forwards, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. You don't have to be religious or believe in anything, but we're all the same thing, just a human being placed on this earth. All right, there's a universal human design. Things are just always what they are. They were before we got here. They will be after we leave, in the ways that, you know, things that don't change. Truth is truth. Episode 204 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast is what we're on as of today's date, the 20th of March, 2026. We have In the Image Clothing Company music, another one of our forwards where we show the sizing and setup of guitar to not alter things like the neutral wrist, straight out from the outside of the pinky finger, down and out that forearm, all right? Neutral. Rhythm and poetry, spoken word, lyricism, guitar playing, music making like this through singing and all the things we do geared around the gospel of Jesus Christ with the messages on In the Image Clothing Company music. So we do a lot, and there you go. We'll talk about a lot more where we do. We will have our team build, and we'll have our building properly there, you know, so we can ship our products out and breed and house our poodles, and you know, we'll do more as we grow more as far as team members. I mean, that's a big point. And also, we're just going to be in a different location slightly, right, than we are here down in southern Utah, in St. George, Utah. So in a month, give or take, from today's date, we'll be down there, and then things can kind of, you know, branch out a little bit more, blossom and bloom and get bigger for the sake of the impact and the reason we're doing the things we're doing. Once we're actually in the location, we're going to be based for life, you know. So anyway, there you go. Nature, though, a lot of it is just getting people into nature, like I was saying, even apart from the dogs. I mean, just getting back to our roots. A lot of people never even get into nature at all because they live in cities, you know. Maybe they don't have a reason to go into nature, or they don't even know how to. Maybe they're scared of it. I mean, seriously, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, sometimes people are just afraid to go places because they don't know how to navigate the environment. And sometimes, yeah, there's a rightful, you know, level of respect for things like wild animals and stuff, certainly. Not just sometimes. I mean, yeah, no, certainly. You got to know a little bit of just how to, you know, properly approach things that you don't really know much about, you know. So, yeah, this is a lot of the things we do under In the Image Clothing Company. A lot of it's for the environment. A lot of it's for, yeah, just working with good organizations and companies and people doing good things. A lot of it's for the dogs. A lot of it's for human beings. But it comes through all the ways that it does with the health of dogs, the health of human beings. We're only a clothing company because clothing's the only thing physically placed on us. That's where those free modifications in clothing come in, and that's the point of us ever selling products, is just to not alter the bodies. The fix would be never placing anything onto the body to begin with, you know. But yeah, with doing so much more than just discussing clothing, it's just that everything we do in our lives, we're doing it in and through our clothing. And in the case of the dogs, it's their collars, for example, anything like that, just placed onto them basically all the time. It'll change the rest of their entire life if their collars aren't proper, you know, just carrying that weight around all day, or just having the imbalance of it twisting their neck all day, things like this, you know. How dogs naturally sleep. Well, how dogs sleep naturally. It's a video here under In the Image Clothing Company Poodles as well. We discuss feeding and, you know, just all the things we do. So there you go. That's where I'll leave it. I'm gonna get out of here. Well, at least cut the video and maybe walk around for a while. But there you go. All right. Training dogs to, what's the title? follow you. All right. There you go. Dante, you want to say goodbye, bud? Up. Good. Up, up. Good dog. Okay, Dante. Down. Good. All right. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. I'm not actually from Texas, but yeah, seriously, thank you. I mean, we're going to be doing a lot of really cool things. So I'm looking out on the ground here. I've got a drink here. I'm going to drink. I've got something for Dante too in the car. Some food with water poured into it, just kind of waiting for him. So just, you know, it's relatively warm. St. George, Utah, it's a true desert. You know, it's hot down there. So yeah, which is awesome. But we got to know how to stay hydrated, and we'll talk about hydration. I've talked about some things in the Image Clothing Company hydration. Who knows what we'll get into exactly product-wise as time progresses, but there's a little bit of a piece of context on the 20th of March, 2026. All right, thank you.